What you're about to hear are first-hand accounts involving doppelgangers and the lives they have affected. These tales vary from a vacation ruined, a mom's security shaken, lives improved for the worst, a woman framed for theft, and a case of mistaken identity. Up next are chilling doppelganger stories. Back in 2010, my ex-wife and I had saved up to go on a trip to Bali. We had been married for 10 years, and it was always our dream to go visit. On the day we were supposed to leave, we got to the airport a couple hours early, thinking if we got there with plenty of time, we could get through security and then relax before the flight. Getting through the line went faster than expected, so we ended up having 2 hours to kill. After my 5th cup of coffee, I had to hit the head. The plane was boarding soon, so I made it quick. As I was coming back, I spotted my wife through the crowd. She was talking to a man. No problem with that, but what got me was his shirt. I realized I had the same one at home. I could only see the back of him as I approached, but when I got a little closer, maybe 20 feet away, he turned so I could see the front. I stopped dead in my tracks. It was like looking in a mirror. I don't know if he saw me, but he left before I got there. When I got to my wife, I asked her who she was talking to. She looked shocked at first, then confused. Her mouth was hanging wide open. Then she asked me how I got a drink so quickly. We both looked around, trying to find my twin she was just talking to, but it was pretty crowded and we couldn't spot him. I then explained what I had seen. She confirmed she thought she was talking to me, but then I pointed out I wasn't wearing the same shirt, and she agreed it had to have been someone else. Overhead, we heard the call to board. We got on the plane and sat down. She then told me her side of the story. After I'd gone to the bathroom, the man came up a few seconds later. She remarked that was a quick bathroom trip. The man brushed that off and told her how pretty she looked. He started talking about the trip and that he was excited to go. Whoever it was knew our plans, that we had been talking about this for a long time, and even what we were going to do there. As he was explaining how he was looking forward to trying the zip line, he stopped mid-sentence and excused himself to get some water. Moments later is when I walked up. She said she didn't even notice he was wearing a different shirt because she's seen me wear the same one before. We scratched our heads trying to figure it out for a good hour. Then the drink cart came around and we lost ourselves in a couple glasses of champagne. If you ever have the chance to fly first class, I highly recommend it. If that wasn't crazy already, what happened at the airport when we landed was worse. We were going through the port of entry to get our passport stamped. When I got to the window, the immigration officer scanned my passport. I was expecting it to be stamped and to move along. The officer stared at her screen for a while, then told me to wait by the side for someone to get me. My wife and I gave each other a confused look, but I complied. A couple of minutes later, another officer came and got me and my wife. They took us to an interview booth in the back. Questions started right off the bat. He was asking how my passport was used earlier that day. Do I have proof it's mine, and who am I really? Then he went on about how entering the country under someone else's ID is a serious problem. We barely got a word in between his questions. It took him a minute to calm down, but then my wife and I tried to explain there must have been a mistake. The man said that records showed my passport had already been processed. We asked to talk to his supervisor, which flew like a lead balloon, but eventually he agreed to bring someone else in. The other man was a little more level-headed, and I produced everything in my wallet. Who knew a library card would come in handy in Bali? We were told to report it if anything else strange happened, and not to let the passport out of my sight. Once out of that interview, my wife and I breathed a sigh of relief and were ready to vacation. It was a short car ride to the hotel. When we got there, a concierge came and got our bags, then led us up to the check-in desk. Before I even got to the desk, the clerk said welcome back. We stopped right there and both of us said, no at the same time. Fortunately, the clerk took a closer look and realized I wasn't who she thought I was. We checked and no problem. But over the next few days, people I had never met before knew my name before I told them. The pool boy had a story about a conversation we had, which we definitely did not have. And at one of the restaurants, the waiter said I must have loved the food to be back 2 nights in a row. It was our first time there. We stayed for a week, and besides the occasional person swearing they've seen me before, nothing else bad happened. Until 2 nights before we left. It happened while we were at this really fancy restaurant. The name isn't coming to me right now, but we had sat down to order when this, and I can say this now because I'm divorced, stunning blonde walked up to our table and slapped me across the face. She was drop-dead gorgeous, way out of my league. There were tears in her eyes and her lower lip was quivering. The ex-wife went full badger mode without thinking. There was a scene. I sat there for a moment, trying to figure out how a guy that looks like me got this reaction out of a woman that looked like that, but then jumped up and tried to pull the wife off of her. There wasn't even a chance to explain. The woman grabbed a glass of water, threw it in my face, then stormed off saying she hopes I choke. Needless to say, we weren't allowed to order after that and had to get our meal elsewhere. Our last day was spent in the hotel room. We didn't want to risk going out again. The next day we boarded the plane and got home without any further incidents. The ex and I split up 2 years after that, not related to anything that happened here. When we got home, I found the shirt the man had been wearing when I saw him talking to my wife. It was there right where I left it. Still have no idea how any of this happened. Maybe I found my doppelganger. He's kind of a jerk. Here's something crazy that happened recently. Before we even start, I want to say I love my husband. We've been together for 5 years and I have no interest in stepping out on him. Which is why when a random man approached me in the Walmart parking lot, I was taken aback. I was there with my 4-year-old daughter, loading the car, when a stranger came up to me asking why I never called him back after our first date. I told him he must have confused me with someone else, but then he used my name, my full name. Mistaken identity is one thing, but the odds someone looks like you with the exact same name is astronomical. He even knew where I worked. It took some convincing, and I'm not sure he fully believed me, but he let it go. I think once he saw my kid, he figured he didn't want a part of that anyways. If that happened once, I could have brushed it off, but it happened again, and again, and again. Not always the same way, but strange men came up to me like they knew me. Intimate details of my life were being handed out like candy. My mom being sick, my dad passing away. One guy even knew the name of my pet dog when I was a child. When it happened once in front of my husband, it took all I could do to convince him I wasn't cheating. He let it go for a bit, but one night he went and made a Tinder account to see if I was on there. Sure enough, he found a profile using my pics, name, and details. I had to show him my phone to prove it wasn't me. I was thinking someone was using my information to catfish these guys, but then I remembered that all of them had seen the other me in person. Then I thought that maybe someone simply looked like me, but then there were the details of my life they knew. Things I had never said to anyone else except my husband. I don't do much social media and I never post personal things to it, so how they learned all that I can't figure out. If this stopped here, it would be weird. But when my daughter started talking about me coming to her daycare for lunch, my whole body went cold. I work as a nurse and I barely get a lunch break. There's never been a time I was able to visit her during the day, except she told me twice about how much she loved me stopping by to say hello. The teachers confirmed her story and said I had stopped by. That hit a little too close to home. I asked them to call me the next time I showed up. It was hard explaining why, but they could tell it bothered me, so they agreed. Next, my husband told me how he enjoyed my surprise visit. The thought of someone seeing my daughter got me furious, but thinking of another woman around my man made my skin crawl. I was a little relieved when he said it hurt I didn't kiss him goodbye. It took a bit of convincing, but when a coworker vouched that I was at work that day, he believed me. I think it made him feel better about the Tinder dates that had approached me. Finally, there was proof I hadn't been making things up. All of this had a huge impact on my mental health. I stopped sleeping well, barely ate, and constantly felt like I was being watched. The one thought that kept rolling in my head was why? Why was someone trying to take over my life? I hate to admit it, but during this time I drank a little more than usual. Not a lot, but a glass of wine or two every night to take the edge off. This all came to a head 2 weeks ago. I laid my daughter down for bedtime and went to take a bath. My husband was lying in bed reading. 15 minutes and half a glass of wine in, I heard my husband calling me. I hollered back I was in the tub. He came in with a look of relief on his face. He said he thought he was seeing things. Then he told me while he was reading, he saw someone go past the door out of the corner of his eye. He went to go check on our daughter. She was still asleep, but her window was now open and the screen was out. Immediately, I got up and called the cops to report a break-in. Husband went and checked the rest of the house. The front door was open. We gave our reports when the police showed up, but said neither of us saw who it was. Could you imagine their faces if we described the intruder as looking like me? There hasn't been any more sightings of her since then. We've checked and the Tinder profile is gone. I hope that means it's over. Kinda wish we had taken screenshots of it, but at the time I didn't want to look at it. I'm afraid to let my guard down. We always lock the doors now, even during the day, and I've put up some cameras. This person has been in my home, spent time with my family, and dated men in my name. I keep feeling like the next move will be worse, but it hasn't come yet. If anyone has an idea on how I can protect myself from this, I'm all ears. I'm 34, work in corporate finance in Denver. For context, I'm not a dramatic person. I drink too much coffee, I'm bad at responding to texts, and I've been wearing the same 5 ties on rotation for 3 years. My fiancée Jessica and I have been together for 4 years, engaged for the last 8 months. We've been fighting a lot lately. She works as a dental hygienist and hates it, and she kept saying she felt stuck. Not just with her job, but with everything. She wasn't sure about the wedding anymore. I understood, but I didn't know how to fix it. 3 months ago, my boss Martin called me into his office and told me my recent reports had been exceptional. He wanted to know what my secret was. I laughed it off, but I felt a little sick afterwards, because those reports were still in my drawer at my desk half finished. I'd been struggling with them for weeks because of everything with Jessica. When I got back to my desk, I checked and they were gone. I found them in the submitted folder on the shared drive, timestamped from 3 days earlier. I convinced myself I must have finished them and forgotten. I was stressed and not sleeping well, but it bothered me because I had no memory of it at all. Then, Jessica came home one evening completely different, happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. She kept thanking me for the flowers I'd sent her at work. A big arrangement apparently, with a card that said exactly what she needed to hear. She showed me a picture on her phone. They were nice flowers and the card had my handwriting. I didn't send flowers. I checked my credit card, no flower shop charge. But she had the card. She showed it to me. That was definitely my handwriting, my signature, the exact way I signed things. That night was the best night we'd had in months, but I kept feeling that I was somehow cheating her, even though I had no memory of ordering flowers. My life started getting better after that. I got a raise, Jessica started making wedding plans again. At work, people I barely knew started being friendlier. Dave, from accounting, invited me to his daughter's graduation party. Said it was the least he could do after I helped him last month. I have no memory of helping Dave with anything. I started keeping detailed notes on my phone, tracking every hour of every day. Meetings, lunch breaks, evening plans. Nothing was missing from my memory. I could account for all of it, but people kept mentioning things I supposedly did. The gym membership was what really got me. I went to check in one morning, and the guy at the desk made a joke about me practically living there. Said I'd been in yesterday evening. I was homesick yesterday. I checked my app, and it showed I'd scanned in at 6:47 p.m. I started wondering if I was having some kind of episode, a fugue state or microsleeps or early onset dementia, even though there's no history of that in my family. I made a doctor's appointment, but I couldn't bring myself to actually go. A couple of weeks ago, I got to work early, around 7:15 a.m. I was walking past Martin's office and saw someone in the chair across from his desk. Only a back view through the window. Same build as me, same haircut and wearing a suit. I only saw him for a second before I kept walking. When I got to my desk, there was a coffee cup there, still warm and half full. The kind I always got from the cafeteria downstairs. French roast, no sugar, splash of cream. I checked my badge swipes. First swipe was 7:13 a.m. when I came in the main entrance. But that coffee had to have been sitting there for at least a few minutes to cool down. Jessica started seeming happier, more affectionate. She'd smile at me in this little way like we had a secret. A few times she made comments about me being more attentive lately, more present. One night she curled up next to me and said she was glad I was finally making an effort. I didn't ask what she meant. Last week, a coworker named Brian stopped me in the hallway and told me I'd killed it at karaoke on Thursday night. He did this impression of me singing, laughing the whole time. I've never been to karaoke in my life. I told him he must have had me confused with someone else, but he insisted. Said I was there with a group from the office. I watched a Nuggets game and fell asleep on the couch around 10:30. Jessica can confirm it because she went to bed early, and I was there when she woke up to use the bathroom around midnight. But Brian was so certain it was me. That night I told Jessica I needed to run an errand and drove to a bar I'd never been to. Got drunk enough that the bartender cut me off. I sat there trying to figure out if I was having a mental breakdown or if something else was happening. Both options seemed impossible. Here's where I am now. I'm apparently up for a promotion. Jessica is planning our wedding and seems excited about it. People at work keep telling me about conversations we've had that I don't remember. My gym membership shows visits I didn't take. The worst part is my life is better now than it's been in years. Jessica is happy. My boss loves me. I'm making more money and I have friends at work. I'm terrified that if I figure out what's actually happening, all of it will fall apart. And I'm even more terrified that I might actually be doing all these things and just can't remember any of it. I don't know which possibility scares me more. I drove past that karaoke bar yesterday. Sat in my car outside for 20 minutes, trying to work up the courage to go in and ask if anyone recognized me. I couldn't do it. I know how this sounds, and I know what it looks like, but I don't know what else to do. I'm a 28-year-old woman living in a mid-sized city in Ohio. I work part-time in customer service while finishing my nursing degree. I have a cat named Pepper, and until about 6 months ago, my life was pretty unremarkable. It started small. People kept approaching me in public, saying we'd met before when I knew we hadn't. At the grocery store, a woman insisted we chatted in line the previous week. I'm the kind of person who keeps to myself, so I just figured I had one of those faces. You know, generic enough that people mix you up with someone else. Then it started happening more frequently and with more certainty. A barista at my regular coffee shop got upset with me, saying I'd promised to bring her a book and asking why I was acting like I didn't know her. I hadn't promised anyone anything. She described a whole conversation we'd supposedly had about historical fiction. I don't even read historical fiction. The first time I felt weird about it was about 4 months ago at work. I was at the customer service desk helping someone return a defective blender when he suddenly stopped mid-sentence and just stared at me. He asked if my name was Jennifer. That is my name, so I said yes, thinking maybe I'd helped him before and he remembered. He asked if I was Jennifer Morrison. That's my full name. Before I could even process that, he started getting agitated, saying he couldn't believe I was working here and asking why I was pretending not to know him. He said I was his ex-girlfriend, that we'd dated for 2 years, and that I told him I was moving to Michigan. I tried explaining I wasn't who he thought I was, but he pulled out his phone and showed me a picture. It was a woman who looked exactly like me at what appeared to be a birthday party. Same hair, same build, even the same face. She was also wearing a similar shirt to one I own. He kept insisting it was me, describing details like the mole on my left cheek and the small scar on my eyebrow from falling off a bike as a kid. My manager had to come over and ask him to leave because he was getting loud. After he left, my manager looked at me and asked if I had a twin I'd never mentioned. A few weeks after that, I went to the DMV to renew my license. The woman at the counter looked at my paperwork, then at me, then back at the paperwork with this confused expression. She asked if I'd forgotten something earlier. I told her I hadn't been there earlier. This was my first time in years. She insisted that someone with my exact name had been there that same morning around 10. She wouldn't show me anything because of privacy rules, but she kept looking at me like I was pulling some kind of prank. She said she remembered because the earlier Jennifer had made a joke about hating her photo. She kept asking if I was sure I hadn't been in, like maybe I'd forgotten or something. I started feeling paranoid. I'd catch myself looking over my shoulder in parking lots. I made my social accounts private. My roommate thought I was overreacting, said it was just a weird coincidence. Maybe identity theft, but it would sort itself out. I wanted to believe her. Around that time, I also got pulled over. I had forgotten to signal while changing lanes. Completely my fault. The officer was nice about it. He said he'd just give me a warning since my record was clean. He took my license back to his car to run it. I sat there scrolling through my phone, not worried at all. When he came back, his whole demeanor had changed. He asked me to step out of the vehicle. I thought maybe it was a routine sobriety check, so I complied. The second I was out, he had me turned around and cuffed. He was saying something about an outstanding warrant and talking about my rights. People in other cars were staring. I kept trying to explain there had to be a mistake, but he wasn't listening. He took me to the police station in the back of a cruiser. At the station, they processed me for theft charges, multiple counts apparently. A detective showed me surveillance footage from 3 different stores, Target, Walmart, and a Speedway gas station. The video showed someone who looked identical to me shoplifting. In one clip, she was wearing a jacket I actually owned. In another, she walked with the same slight limp I have from an old ankle injury. The detective kept asking why I was denying it, when the evidence was right there. The gas station footage was the worst. The woman had apparently dropped her wallet while stealing cigarettes and energy drinks. When they recovered it, it had an ID with my name, my birth date, and my height and weight. Everything matched. They were utterly convinced I was lying. I spent 2 nights in jail before my mom could scrape together money for a lawyer. Those were the longest 2 nights of my life. My lawyer thought I was initially guilty too, until she started investigating. She found my work schedule, my time cards, and security footage from work showing I was there during 2 of the thefts. She talked to my roommate who confirmed I'd been home during another. The alibis were solid. The charges were dropped 5 days ago. I'm freaked out because they still haven't caught the other person. Whoever she is, she's still out there, using my name and looking exactly like me. The police told me it wasn't technically identity theft, since she has some form of ID with my information that they can't prove is fake. They said unless they catch her in the act, there's not much they can do. They suggested I keep detailed records of my whereabouts, like I'm the one who needs an alibi for existing. I don't understand how someone can look that much like me. We're not talking similar features. We're talking identical. Plus her ID has my information. The police couldn't explain it. Even my lawyer couldn't explain it. I'm worried now. What if next time I don't have an alibi? Or the other person does something serious? This is working my anxiety into overtime. I'm hoping by sharing this I can relieve some of the pressure. But so far that hasn't helped. This happened about 3 weeks ago. I'm a 32-year-old woman living in Sacramento. I work as a CNA, and I'd say I'm pretty average looking. Brown hair, average height, nothing that really stands out. Except I have this birthmark on my left cheek that kind of looks like a comma. I do my grocery shopping at the same Safeway every Sunday morning around 9 a.m. because it's quiet and I can get in and out fast. I'm a creature of habit. Same store, same time, and usually wearing my gray hoodie and leggings because I haven't fully woken up yet. 3 Sundays ago, I was in the cereal aisle trying to decide between 2 different kinds of granola when I noticed someone at the other end of the aisle. She had her back to me, but something made me look twice. She was wearing a gray hoodie, the same gray hoodie I was wearing. It's from this 5K I ran 2 years ago for my sister's charity thing, and they only made like 200 of them. I thought it was funny, a coincidence. But then she turned slightly to grab something off the shelf, and I could see her profile. It kind of puzzled me. She had my same hair, same build, and same jawline. I stood there stunned, with both boxes of granola in my hands, just staring. She must have felt me watching, because she turned around fully and we made eye contact. For maybe 3 seconds we looked at each other. She had the birthmark on her left cheek, in the same spot, and the same shape. I don't know what expression was on my face, but hers went completely blank. Then she turned and walked quickly toward the front of the store. I dropped the granola boxes and followed her. I don't know why. I wasn't thinking clearly. By the time I got to the front, she was already outside in the parking lot, walking fast. I pushed through the doors and called out, asking her to wait. She didn't turn around. She got into a Honda Civic that was the same color as mine, dark blue, and drove away. I didn't get the license plate. I went back inside and the cashier asked if I was okay, because apparently I looked really pale. I told her I thought I saw someone I knew. I didn't buy anything, I just left. Here's where it gets weirder. 2 days later, I was at work, and my coworker, Denise, asked me why I didn't say hi to her at Target on Sunday afternoon. I told her I wasn't at Target on Sunday. I was at home watching TV. She insisted it was me. She said I was in the home goods section and she called my name twice, but I just looked at her and walked away. She said she thought maybe I was mad at her about something. I don't shop at Target. I hate Target. The layout confuses me and I always spend too much money there. I told Denise it must have been someone who looked like me, but she was really insistent. She said I was wearing a green jacket she'd seen me wear to work before, and that she was close enough to see my birthmark. When she said that, I got chills. Last week, my neighbor left a note on my door, asking me to stop walking past her window late at night because it was making her uncomfortable. I've lived in this apartment for 4 years, and I've never done that. I knocked on her door to clear things up, and she showed me her Ring camera footage from 3 nights before. It was 2:47 a.m., and someone walked slowly past her ground floor window that's out front by the door, stopped, and looked in for a few seconds before walking away. The footage was grainy, and the person was backlit by a street lamp, so you couldn't see much detail. But I could tell it was someone my height and build with hair like mine. They were wearing dark clothing, so that didn't help either. I told my neighbor it wasn't me and that I'm always asleep by midnight. She gave me this look like she didn't believe me, but didn't want to argue. She asked me if I had a twin sister. I told her I don't. Ever since then, I've started keeping my curtains closed all the time. I've been having trouble sleeping. I keep thinking about that blank expression in the grocery store, and the way she moved toward her car like she was in a hurry but didn't want to run. I changed my grocery shopping day to Saturdays. I've been driving a different route to work as well. I don't know what else to do. Part of me wants to see her again just to confirm I wasn't hallucinating. But a bigger part of me hopes I never do. You have been watching Neon Noir, a Radion production brought to you by Trapper Dan, the finest in canned survival food.